Alright, so in the last class we were covering the socio-economic environment on entrepreneurship, where we did discuss some of the points, including, we'll just quickly go through them and then we'll move on. So provide employment to huge mass of people, contributing towards research and development, create wealth for individuals as well as skyscraping heights of apparent prospects, means creating successful and highly successful enterprises. It is a challenging opportunity for the people. Then entrepreneurship provides self-sufficiency, rapid economic growth, means of social change, helpful in capital formation. So we did not, I think we discussed up till means of social change. Is that right? Okay. So we'll start from helpful in capital formation. So as we discussed, that socio-economic environment includes a lot of other factors involving political environment, legal environment, social beliefs, cultural values of people. All these impact on entrepreneurs' life and entrepreneurs' working style, and it helps in creation of capital. How? As we set up a business, we involve some capital, or we try to use some of the capital that we initially invest. By investing that capital, we are trying to use it and multiply it or grow it. Okay, so capital that is initially invested in the business grows with the business. As the activities of the business progress, so does the capital, or the amount of capital that is invested in the business. It grows with it. So for example, if I have invested ₹1 lakh when I start the business, as I go on producing and selling the products, obviously I sell the products at a profit. This profit will add on to my capital. I will obviously distribute some of the capital, some of the profit to the shareholders, to the employees as bonus, but I will also keep in mind that I should keep some of the amount of profit to reinvest into the business, which will increase or enhance my capital. Okay. Next is contributes to the execution of government policies. So contributing to execution of government policies, government creates policies, but they are executed only when the business class or the people who are involved in entrepreneurship, they actually implement them, they actually comply to these policies or use these policies, these schemes, these grants that are created by the government. So the entrepreneur also contributes to the political environment or the government's policies. Okay. Then next is decentralization of economic power. What is economic power? Economic power is power of wealth. Okay, power of being rich. People in our country or in the entire world, anybody who has financial strength is considered to be powerful. Okay, they can get things done, they can do things whatever they please. Okay, and other people also have to do what they please, as far as it is the right thing to do. Okay, so people can persuade others to do what they desire by using the amount of money they have. Okay, now economic power in our country is sort of centralized into the higher class, into some of the sections of society that have tried to gain it. Okay, for example, big film stars, they are economically powerful. Politicians are economically powerful. Big business owners are economically powerful. So this has created a centralization of economic wealth, okay, or economic power. Entrepreneurs come from every sector of society. They come from all classes of society. They come from lower classes, from middle class, from upper class. Anybody can be a entrepreneur. Now, when entrepreneurs emerge from all sections of society, they slowly but steadily become economically sound. They become economically strong. They also start earning well. They become financially capable. This brings them up to the level, or at least in accordance with the average amount of wealth in the country. So this creates a decentralization. Decentralization means something which is centralized, means focused at one point, and when we try to decentralize it, we try to divide it equally into all the sections. Okay, so entrepreneurship helps in decentralizing the economic power. Okay, increase per capita income and national income. Can somebody tell me what per capita income is? What do you understand by per capita income? Everybody would have studied this in economics in school. What is per capita income? Come on, quickly. No one? You all can hear me, right? Can everybody hear me? Please respond in the comments. Okay, so per capita income is income per person, or per person income of the country is known as per capita income. Alright, and national income obviously you do understand. So per capita income increases. Every person who is involved in business obviously gets enhanced income. Okay, when for example I become an entrepreneur and I try to employ every one of you, okay, I give a job to all of you, so along with me you all also have created a source of income. When you start earning, it will increase your status of living. Okay, now this cycle keeps on going and slowly contributes to building up or increasing of national income. As the national income increases, as it is made up of per capita income, so per capita income also increases. Okay, so basically the average income of all the people in the country. Then next is improvement in export and decrease in imports. This point also we have discussed in the earlier classes. Improvement in exports means as more and more enterprises are being set up, as more and more entrepreneurs create innovations, a lot of countries, a lot of other countries in the world start getting interested in our products, and they start asking for our products. When we send our products to other countries, it is exports. Okay, as business grows, as innovation grows, so does export grow. Okay, plus there is another added benefit, that things that we were importing from other countries, that we were interested in, that were produced in other countries, we now can produce in our country only, and we do not have to pay the import duties or we do not have to use up our foreign exchange reserves in order to import the products from other countries. Okay, so it contributes to decrease in imports. All right, next, equal distribution of income and wealth. Now this point is absolutely related to decentralization of income. Okay, equal distribution of income and wealth is what decentralization of economic power meant. Here also we are trying to equally distribute or minimize the imbalance that has been created between the rich and the poor. We're trying to distribute the wealth and income equally in the entire country. Okay, next is minimize socio-economic problems. Now socio-economic problems may include anything related to the social issues or to economic issues. It can be related to legal aspect, political aspect, it can be related to the cultural background of the country, the people of the country, the economic conditions of the country. Okay, so all these things have certain problems related to them, and entrepreneurship, as it increases or it brings about awareness, it brings about an openness in the society, and as problems are discussed, it tries to minimize those problems. Okay, as everybody gets a source of income, a lot of social evils are also decreased. Okay, then next is optimum utilization of resources. Now we have already discussed what maximum and optimum mean. Okay, when I say maximum, I refer to maximum means as much as a resource can be utilized, but when I say optimum, I have to make sure that I have to use the resources in such a way to the maximum extent so that the returns from it are maximum. I do not have to maximize just the use of the resource, I have to maximize the returns that come from that resource. Okay, the output of that resource I have to maximize. All right, so optimum utilization of resources is done by an entrepreneur, not by any other businessman. Entrepreneurs think in a different way, and hence they focus on optimum utilization of resources. Okay, then social responsibility and social satisfaction. Now both these points are related to social entrepreneurship. Social responsibility, you may have studied the corporate social responsibility aspect, CSR. Yes or no? You have to answer me. Okay, yes, should be so. Only should be as studied CSR. Okay, so CSR is corporate social responsibility, which is every corporate body, every business has to identify that they have a responsibility towards the society that is helping them to survive in the business, in the industry, in the world. Okay, as part of social responsibility initiatives, a lot of companies get involved in a lot of activities which do not financially benefit the business, but they benefit the society. Okay, a lot of organizations, a lot of big business houses, they hold events like blood donation camps, medical camps in rural areas. Okay, some of businesses set up schools, some of them send gifts to unprivileged sections of society, or maybe often children's. Okay, sorry, children is in itself is a plural word. So I'll quickly show you one of the a very good example of CSR activity. I'm not able to remember the name of that school. It's in Jabalpur. I think it's this one. I'm not able to remember the name of it. Something Pandit Kanhaiya Lal Kunj or something like that. Basically, what it is Lloyd company. It's by Lloyd company. They have set up this initiative, this charitable institution. It's a school some kilometers away from Jabalpur. If you go on the Gaur road further ahead, they have this school set up where they bring the nearby Adivasi children to the school. They give them a bath, they clean them, they do, they feed them, they teach them, okay, they dress them up, and then after the school has ended, they drop them off to their schools, to their houses, okay. So it is also a very good CSR initiative that the company has launched. So social responsibility is the responsibility of every entrepreneur, every businessman to contribute something to the society which does not directly benefit them, but it does benefit the society. Okay, social satisfaction comes from social responsibility and from other aspects as well. Social satisfaction is when you know you have contributed to the society in a good way, and you have managed to kill some of the bad practices or malpractices that existed in the country, in the society. Okay, then establishment of viable units. What are viable units? Viable units means feasible units, units which can survive, which are practically beneficial, practically financially capable. Entrepreneurs provide the economy with such viable units or such viable organizations. Then development of entrepreneurial tendencies, looking and learning from the example of already established entrepreneurs, from where they have come, how they have started their business, what was the motivation behind it. All these things motivates other people as well to become entrepreneurs. Okay, we are the topic of entrepreneurship was included in the syllabus of schools and colleges so that youth can get associated with entrepreneurship and get involved in it. Okay, so it may be possible that a few of you, or maybe all of you, or a lot of you may become entrepreneurs in the future. Okay, so developing entrepreneurial tendencies can only be done through already existing entrepreneurship. All right, so this was all these points incorporated in the socio-economic environment. You can describe it in your own words and send it to me on my mail. I'll check and go through them in case there is any problem in it, so I'll point them out. Okay, so moving on, the next topic is risk taking. Okay, so in this chapter I think there are only two topics that are left, risk taking and business planning. So we have to start risk taking now. So risk taking is obviously very important and is absolutely related to entrepreneurship. Since the very first day when we started to define entrepreneurship, we have been talking about risk taking. Okay, so what is risk taking? Business is a game of risk and uncertainty. Who says that? Keynes has said that entrepreneurs play a mixed game of skill and chance, the result of which is known to the players, is not known to the players. Okay, so entrepreneur, he says that business or an enterprise is a game where you have to take chances, you have to do things without knowing what the result or what the outcome would be. Okay, all businesses have risk of different types, as there is always an uncertainty about the future. So anything can happen. Who thought that the entire year of 2020 would be spent at home by everybody in the world? Nobody had ever imagined that, right? But that is the only certain thing about future, that it is uncertain. A person who cannot take risk, therefore cannot start a venture, small or big. Okay, so business is directly associated or related to risk, and if anybody cannot take risk or is afraid, they cannot become entrepreneurs, they cannot start a business. The future holds a certain uncertainty for entrepreneurs. Virtually, risk taking, whether financial or social or psychological, is a part of entrepreneurship. Risk means the condition of not knowing the outcome of an activity or a decision. So these are very simple things, so I don't think that it needs any explaining. I have tried to explain risk throughout. The risk situation occurs when the entrepreneur is required to make a choice between two or more alternatives whose potential outcomes are not known and must be subjectively evaluated. As a risk taker, the entrepreneur has to make decisions in conditions of uncertainty. Okay, so balancing potential success against potential loss. Then uncertainty is defined as risk which cannot be calculated. The entrepreneur, according to Knight, is the economic functionary who undertakes such responsibilities which by its very nature can either be insured or non-salary. Okay, so risk taking is the ability to go through an uncertain condition, an uncertain decision, simply. Alright, so first we'll start with the nature of risk taking. What are the nature of risk taking? First is essential element. Risk is an essential element of business. However, extent of risk depends upon the nature of the business, but no business cannot be found riskless. Okay, so it is an essential element of every business. Every business, no matter how big or how small it is, there is always a category of risk involved in it. Okay, even a person who sells vegetables has a risk that he or she takes, which involves being uncertain about how many customers they are going to get. Is the product going to sell at the price that they have bought it, or they will have a loss? Okay, loss in case of vegetables is also very prone to happen because these are perishable products. Okay, there is a time element attached to these products. All right, so essential element, risk is a very essential element of every business. Uncertainty. Future is uncertain and future events cannot be predicted. Cent%. What does cent% mean? Cent means 100. When we say percent, means per 100. Okay, so we cannot predict the future 100%. This creates uncertainty in the business. Risk is the result of uncertainty. High degree of uncertainty in the business increases the level of risk. So higher the uncertainty, higher is the risk. Okay. What does uncertainty mean? It means that we are not certain about what is going to happen in the future. Okay. Unstable and changing nature. The type and nature of risk is not found same in all businesses. Business affected by demand, social factors, fashion, etc. have more risk in comparison to those businesses which are not affected by these factors. So, risk always is unstable and is always changing. There can be one kind of risk associated to my business today, and there can be another kind of business risk associated with my business tomorrow. So it keeps on changing from time to time with changing demand, with changing needs, preferences. Okay. For example, almost nobody, I think less than 2% of people used to carry a hand sanitizer with them in their bags before the pandemic struck, right? And after the pandemic, there has been a huge change in the demand of hand sanitizers. So, because of the changing environment, because of the changing business scenarios, the demand for these products also changed. Okay. Then next point is time element. Time element also affects the nature of risk. At the time of economic, social and political stability, extent of risk is reduced, while instability, social changes, natural calamities, etc., increase the amount of risk in the business. So, as we have discussed here when we were discussing essential element example, the time element is also very important to risk. Time affects the nature of risk. What kind of risk is going to be there is determined by what is the actual condition or time going on currently in the business, in the environment around us. So it can include economic environment, social environment, political environment. If the country is politically stable, the risk in businesses would be different. Okay, a lot of businesses had to close down, had to shut down. Even huge businesses, huge brands had to shut down a lot of stores because of the pandemic situation. Okay, nobody was purchasing it, and they were not able to afford the rents or the establishment of or maintaining so many stores and businesses. Okay, so they had to close them down. Then next is place element. Risk also gets changed according to place. On the hilly areas, climatic natural calamities increase the risk of business, while in the plain areas risk gets reduced. So when we are talking about hilly areas, there are risks like there may be snowfall, there may be landslides. Okay, these natural calamities cause damage to the economic structure and the lives of people. And as people struggle to survive through these, they do not demand for products, which some of the products. Okay, for example, in the pandemic situation, nobody was going shopping because there was a high risk involved that we may get infected, right? So a place element, depending on where the business has been set up, there are different types of risk that are involved in it. Then cause of profit. So risk is the reason for earning profit. Entrepreneurs take risk in the expectation of profit. There is an old saying that there is no gain without risk. The higher one is willing to take the risk, the chance of profit will become high. So the more the risk, the more is the profit. But the entrepreneur always have to consider that they have to take calculated amount of risk, not any kind of risk. Okay. Last point, risk can be minimized but cannot be avoided. Okay. So as we discussed, that calculation of risk is possible, but without risk there is no gain. One important characteristic of risk is that it can be minimized but cannot be avoided fully. Okay, so all risk of a business cannot be forecasted. Insurable risks can be minimized to a certain extent, but non-insurable uncertainties increase the risk of the business. Okay, so insurable, some of the risks are insurable, like when we transport goods from one place to another, they are insured against theft or fire or accident. Okay, so these kind of risks are insured, but say the lockdown, that cannot be insured. Okay, nobody knew that there would be a lockdown, because of which a lot of products would be held in transit and get spoiled. Okay, so risk can be minimized but it cannot be avoided. Alright, so that's all for today.